Okay, so we've got a quick video. It's the NZXT bait and switch. We covered NZXT's H1 riser replacement a while ago, and we didn't fully clear NZXT because we were a little worried they would do something like they've done. But what we did say was that the one we were sent was good and a significant improvement versus the original. So in this video, we're going to look at the alternative NZXT H1 replacement riser that some of our viewers have been getting and tweeting us about. And in this video, we will have demolitions expert / my anger translator appearing because I'm pretty mad at NZXT for this. So I'm going to get Patrick Stone on later to talk purely the technical details. That way I can focus on really just using the audience as a therapist for my anger. Before that, this video is brought to you by Be Quiet and the Silent Base 802 case. The Silent Base 802 got high accolades in our review for its high build quality and its versatility in both silence-focused and airflow-focused builds. The 802 comes with swappable mesh panels or noise-damped panels, so you have options for either approach. The Silent Base 802 case is able to fit larger builds as well without being overbearing, and it stands out for its mechanics quality and assembly quality. Learn more about Be Quiet's new case at the link in the description below. Okay, so here's the crux of the issue. We're not going to recap the whole NZXT H1 Fire trilogy. There's 5 of them. It's more than a trilogy. I don't know what you call that with a G at the end of it, but there's 5 videos. Basically, there was a fire problem. We researched the fire problem. NZXT finally formally recalled the case. This was a very good move by NZXT. And it was something like 30-something thousand units of the NZXT H1 officially recalled via government recall. That was conducted in the US, in Canada, and a couple of other countries across the world. Thank you to those of you who notified us of your own government recalls. So the product was brought back formally. And it was brought back for a refund / repair, depending on which region you're in. And so if you did a repair, what they would do is give you, in theory, one of these cables. Actually, let's get the exact one that we looked at. This cable that we were given an early sample of. So this is what you were supposed to get if you got a repair instead of a refund. And what we've learned NZXT is also sending out is this. NZXT's reasoning was that they needed 2 suppliers to fulfill the replacements fast enough. Unfortunately, my take on it is it looks like this one is literally the same as the original fire hazard cable, except maybe reworked a little bit. Okay, so we've already taken microscope images of the new cables, and we've looked at it, we've tested it, we've cycled it, all that stuff. So we went through and we did all the same testing on this one that we did for this one, which is the original. We had one before this that is no longer with us because it incinerated. But this was the one that we had tried after that, where we created a fuse to test whether it would also catch fire rather than literally burning it. And so you can tell this one got screw cycled a lot. It went through X-ray analysis, all kinds of stuff. So we're back. And this is a new riser replacement. This is a new riser replacement. If we line them up, and we'll get a closer up shot of this, but there's quite the difference here in one key area. If it's not clear, it's in the cheese grater here on the bottom, where there's a plethora of holes here, and actually a double drilled hole back here, where there's 2 back-to-back. And this actually existed on the original as well, but we didn't notice it at the time because it was on the bottom side. So the problem then that we have right now is that NZXT has used our channel as a vehicle to convey to its audience, at least implicitly, if not explicitly. I looked through the email thread, though, and I don't believe they ever explicitly said this is the only one we'll ever ship out. But certainly it seemed implicit to us that this replacement was the replacement, as in the only intended replacement for the H1 riser. And we went on camera and said this is very high quality cable. It's got a completely plated through hole all the way down through the hole it is plated, as opposed to just on the surface. So really high quality finish and coating, higher quality PCB material, and in fact a different PCB from what we can, a different PCB entirely, period, because there's not a bunch of holes in it. And so everything about this looked better. And then NZXT went and changed it. And the problem we have with that is now we're on record saying this seems to have fixed the problem, although we were careful to say that if NZXT in fact ships it exactly like this. And then they ship this one, which isn't the one that we were saying is good. So this is basically the original cable. I don't have confirmation on this. This is speculation up ahead, but my belief is that NZXT took the original PCB that they had already ordered prior to going through the SMT process, or the service mount technology process. So service mount technology, this might be manual, but would be placing things like the riser, the actual slot. It would be placing any SMDs or other potentially through-hole components, things like that. That would be through the SMT and the manual assembly process. So prior to going through assembly, they had the PCBs made, and they had the holes punched in it. And I think they took these boards, the ones that we failed originally for being fire hazards, I think they took these boards and they sent them back to the factory to save cost, and they said, please do some fixes on it, drill the hole out on this one a little bit larger, and plate the top of it. But for some reason, they didn't plate it all the way through. And that's the absolutely baffling part to me, where this is good. NZXT did a pretty good job on this one. And, it was like a slam dunk PR thing. Make the cable right, replace it for the customers, and everybody's happy. But now they're going to jeopardize their relationship with us and the public by changing it. When we tested this cable, it does seem like it is clear so far of the fire hazard issues we saw in the original. But, one, we can't firmly state that based on one sample, but hard to prove a negative. But two, the real problem is just that this is different, and it's different in a significant way where it appears to be the cheaper approach. It is not as high quality. It doesn't have the inner side plated, which we have microscope images of that Patrick Stone can tell you about, where the plating does help protect the PCB and sort of add to the quality of the board. So it's lacking a lot of things that the good one had, which means if you get this one, you are getting a second-class PCIe riser than the one that we were given as a media outlet that would be testing, validating, and talking about a fix to a fire hazard. So if you got the other one, NZXT thinks you are a second-class customer to a media outlet. That's my takeaway. That's why I'm so pissed off about this. So anyway, we're going to talk through some more of this. Let me get Patrick Stone on for a bit to talk about some of his testing. It's not catastrophic, like I said, because we haven't caused a fire with it, so that's good. Which means that I think this is more of a social issue for NZXT at this point than it is an engineering or a technical issue. But let me trade seats with him, and he'll talk about some of that stuff.
When we looked at these, the thing that we were tasked to do was to give an objective look at them. And so we really wanted to take a look at this guy and see if, is this thing in fact a point of failure? And so we took a look at, okay, first of all, can it be damaged? And then if it is damaged, how far can it be damaged? And then from there, will it actually short circuit? And so the first thing that we tried to do was just put it into the case and see what happened. And when we did put it into the case, we did notice that right away some of the PCB inside the board was coming off. And so that was a bad sign, not great. But thankfully, again, because Steve was like, hey, let's take an objective look at this. Let's give it a fair chance. The thing that we found was that even though it did dig in a little bit, it didn't dig in quite as much. And so maybe that's a saving grace for this. But then when we go back to this other sample is just so much better. And from an engineering perspective, it's a superior product. And if you can give all of your users the right product, you should do that. And so we also tested this one just for the sake of testing, because that's how we like to do things, to prove our points. And when we put this one in the case and put the screws through the plated hole, there was a little bit of damage, but even after multiple cycles, this one had very little damage, meaning it's a better solution. And so Steve's got a point. It's not the best solution to send 2 different cables out. Just go with the better one, NZXT. Save Steve's anger.
For just $1 a month, you can reduce Steve's blood pressure. No. So that's the end of it. Stone's conclusion there sounded like an ad or something. Is it a problem? I mean, socially, yes. And the reason that is because NZXT has at this point earned my distrust. We gave them a really fair chance with the H1 originally, and NZXT, if you remember, if you watch the series, NZXT ignored us when we first said, hey, we're researching this fire problem, and we've been able to reproduce fire in your computer case. And we think that's a problem, and we got ignored. And it wasn't until we emailed them a bit later and said, we're publishing a video about the fire that your case makes, that they started paying attention to us. So that's step 1 to how to lose the trust of anybody, or somebody in media especially. They kind of gained it back a little bit by showing signs of good faith with the new cables, letting us test it in advance, making some genuine improvements, and as Stone said, producing a cable that's actually pretty high quality from an engineering standpoint. And now it's just like, what are you doing? At this point, my company and I can't sign off in good faith on either of NZXT's cables because I don't know what's actually happening over there. I don't know if they're going to change it again, and it's just, there's too many variables at this point, and so I am no longer willing to sign off on the product. It is what it is. It's neither of these cables, the 2 options that exist now, barring the first one, neither of the 2 that are intended to be fixed seem to be a major hazard at this point in our technical opinions, in our objective opinions. It's just that I'm not looking at every cable going out the door because I don't work at NZXT. And so that's the part that worries me, is what gets out the door to a customer. And is it going to be the same as either of these 2 that we've looked at? So that's where we are on it. I suppose realistically, if I kind of come back to a sense of realism and objectivity, it seems like both options are okay in the sense that they seem to no longer be a hazard. So I think it's accurate to say that the issue remains mostly fixed, especially because they're shipping it with nylon screws. So from that angle, if you use either of the 2 cables with the nylon screws in the NZXT H1, barring other issues we are unaware of, it seems like it's okay. So I don't want people to rush out and replace their systems necessarily just because of the bait and switch. But as stated, we are no longer willing to sign off on it wholesale and say this is okay. So that's where we are, and I think that more or less recaps the issue. But I'm trying to be as fair as I can while also applying the appropriate amount of salt. And it's not the kind that you have for rumors. It's the kind that you have for burns. So that's where it's hard to balance the 2 because this is a fire issue. And so it's not like it's the RGB LED is the wrong colors or something. It's actually CMYK instead of RGB. That's not what this is. It's not like the Corsair keyboard back in the day. The CMYK thing was a joke before someone started typing a comment. It's not like the RGB keyboards back in the day from Corsair where it was whatever, you got 286 colors or something instead of 16.8 million, whatever that big controversy was they had about keyboard RGBs. That's one where we'd be like, yeah, okay, sure, seems fixed, because it's not going to burn someone's house down. So I am at this point too cautious about it, and we are going to stop covering this story unless I see evidence that something worse comes out. But I am no longer going to cover this. If NZXT reaches out and says, we took your feedback, we're only going to ship the good one, I'm not going to talk about it because I don't believe them anymore. So that's it. Thanks for watching. You can subscribe for more as always. Go to store.gamersnexus.net or patreon.com/gamersnexus. We'll see you all next time.